Hello, family. My name is James Trice, and I'm the creator of a podcast called YANA, or You Are Not Alone. You Are Not Alone is a podcast for Black men. It is more than just a podcast. It's a lifeline and a brotherhood. We're here to create a supportive, judgment-free space where Black men can have real, open conversations about what truly matters to us, from family and relationships to community, sports, culture, politics, faith, sex, race, education, and the challenges of everyday life. We dive deep into it all. Whether you're looking for advice, motivation, prayer, or just the comfort of knowing you're not walking this journey alone. YANA is here for you. This is your space to connect, grow, and be heard, because none of us are meant to do life alone. Look for new episodes weekly wherever you get your podcasts. And look for me on Instagram at jbtrice123. Welcome to YANA. Grace and peace, everyone. This is James Trice. Welcome to another edition of YANA. You Are Not Alone. This is a space for Black men to talk about the issues that matter most to us in a judgment-free environment, uncensored about the issues that matter most to us. This is a space for us to feel understood, be seen, to be heard. It's a space where we're not just men, we are human. So thank you for joining this episode of YANA, You Are Not Alone. In today's guest, we have none other than, believe it or not, my little brother, my youngest brother, blood brother. We have the same mother, we have different fathers, but the same mother, grew up in the same household in Illinois. And I want to welcome my brother Eric to the show. As some of you who've been following me and listening, I interviewed my brother Eric, brother Gerald, who's like under me, and then Eric is our younger brother. So this is our younger brother. There's 5 of us in the family. And so anyway, I want to welcome my brother Eric to the show. Eric, please introduce yourself, talk about you and what you want the audience to know, and let's get right into this discussion.
All right. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Of course, you know, I'm Eric Tennial, your younger brother, youngest brother, I should say.
Yes.
Just this maturing Black man that's finding his way, finding a new path in life, one that I never even imagined possible for myself, and enjoying the journey.
Well, talk about that. When you say this maturing Black man that's finding himself, what are you learning in this journey about yourself that you didn't know before?
Learning the differences in being afraid of taking steps as opposed to not wanting to take steps. I didn't know that, like, as you know now, I am a college student at nearly 60 years old. And that whole I'm too old for school, or I can't learn, I wouldn't be able to keep up, those kind of little stereotypical thinking processes will hinder you from doing something. And I'm finding myself pleasantly pleased with my progress so far.
So what specifically are you learning then about this process? Because you said fearing taking a step and not wanting to take a step. Tell me what the difference between the two is.
Well, the initial fear came from not ever really realizing what I wanted to do. And if I'm totally honest, I'm still not 100% sure of what I want to do. But I've always known that I wanted a higher form of education. And I found myself over the years, speaking to people who did have formal educations and admiring it quietly, but never thinking that I was able to attain it for myself just by virtue of circumstances or my own personal pitfalls, thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to keep up. Being a little bit afraid of the new styles of learning, technology now being involved in it, and overcoming the fears of failing just because I hadn't really tried it before.
Hmm. What are the things that you have tried? What have you tried on this journey of finding yourself and still trying to find yourself? What have you done? What have you been through? What have you tried? What have you engaged in?
Well, certainly the technology part of it. That used to terrify me. The use of computers, the use even like simple platforms like Zoom here, and having certain little fears of how am I going to look on camera, wondering how I was going to sound. I think most of us believe that we sound a little bit different than our recorded voices. I don't know how true that is, but for me, it definitely was one of my truths. It was like I avoided, and unless I absolutely had to do it, I avoided this type of platform because I worried about how I was going to sound, how I was going to look. Those are my own personal fears that I needed to get over in order to
Hmm.
initially take this next step, which is pursuing higher education and carving
Hmm.
a path for myself, whatever that may be.
So, higher education. What are you? You're in school now.
I
What are
am.
you in school for now?
It started out with computer technology. I've taken a real strong interest in automated office technology with a emphasis on human resources. Um, in my years of working, I was a flight attendant for nearly 30 years, and I've done other things as well on the side, touch and go here and there. And I always found that I had a real interest, a strong interest in training and development.
Hmm.
So now I'm really seeing certain aspects of that really resonating with me in my pursuit of education.
Hmm. So, when you say training and development, talk more about that.
Well, I've been in leadership positions, and as I spoke about my own fears, it seemed as though whenever I worked with other people, I would see the differences in my strengths, their weaknesses, if I can say it that way, because I certainly don't want to sound like I'm putting anybody down. But I think that I always wanted to be able to say, yes, you can do this. And I've had a lot of people say that to me in the past. And again, my own personal fears kept me from doing it. But I had a natural ability to say to somebody else, you can do this.
Hmm.
Even when people said some of the same things I said, this is too hard. I don't know what to do. It's okay. It's okay to
Hmm.
not know. You are here to learn, you are here to know. And if
Hmm.
I can help somebody along the way, then that's where my personal satisfaction comes in.
Hmm. What are you most passionate about?
That's a hard question for me because I don't know. um,
Hmm.
if I had to specifically say one thing, um, I'm most passionate about personal growth, whether it be mine or somebody else's.
Okay.
And I know that's
Where?
really open ended, but
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What
that's
were you saying
probably
again?
open ended. But the base of everything for me is personal growth.
Okay. Well, let me ask this in another way. Where
Okay.
do you see yourself in, like, to say, 5 years from now? So if
Five,
you were to future cast yourself 5 years from now.
I see myself in some type, and I want to say leadership role. And I don't necessarily mean just having to be somebody's superior, somebody's manager or something like that. And I have certainly operated in a small capacity when it comes to that. Um, but more so in a leadership role in terms of helping people and myself along the way in developing your for one your natural abilities to your desired abilities. um, I think that when you can see and experience not even just your own personal growth but somebody else's personal growth, that speaks volumes for the strength of anybody's future.
Hmm. So what are your natural abilities as a man, not just as a black man? What are your natural abilities and what are your desired abilities?
Naturally, I think uh, for me is communication. I did not for years put a lot of effort into, if I can say, perfecting it or even putting it out there for anybody to realize that, hey, this was somebody that you could come to. This is somebody who would listen to you and help you figure out something or
Hmm.
anything for that matter. Now, that's
Hmm.
not to say that, I think I got the ability to know and dig everybody's insecurity out. No, I don't.
Hmm.
But the
Hmm.
communication aspect of it will always allow you to help that next person and yourself in the same process excel in your life. So if and I'm hoping that makes sense. It kind of does to me.
Right. No, so it's your desired ability though. So you said that's your natural ability, communication, and I do want to go back to that because I want to ask further because communication is such a broad field, right? There's electronic communication, there's broadcasting, whatever. When you say communication, what do you mean communication?
I mean, expression, expressing yourself, um, expressing and realizing, like for me right now, part of this educational journey that I'm going through is allowing me to realize that I do have a personal expression about probably lots of things. Now, any one thing, I haven't figured that out yet, one specific thing, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know that expression of oneself is very, very important to
Mm-hmm.
your total existence.
Mm-hmm. And you said something about your desired abilities. What is your desired abilities?
Well, my desired ability, for one, like I said, is to allow people to grow, assisting people to grow. Some people have a penchant for uh,
Mm-hmm.
health care. Some people have a penchant for whatever it is. I think that we all need a hand up sometimes when it comes to uh, figuring out where we're going, what we really want to do,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, what we think we want to do, because it can
Mm-hmm.
always start out with a thought and end up being something totally different, and that's where the amazement comes in. It's like, wow, I never knew I could do this, or I never knew I had this interest. I didn't for years didn't know that I liked reading books, and it took me to start reading um, some books that probably I shouldn't have read, but uh, I liked reading books. So in the pursuit of knowledge, reading worked for me,
Mm-hmm.
just because the art of expression
Mm-hmm.
is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
However, it gets out there.
As a black man, I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. As a black man, what are you most concerned about when it comes to we as black men?
How we see ourselves, what we think of ourselves, and what we fall prey to.
Hmm. Okay.
Society.
Can you go deeper? So when you say how we see ourselves, what we think of ourselves, and what we fall prey to, can you talk about each one of those?
Well, I think we see ourselves stereotypically within our own communities, and
Mm-hmm.
that is where personalities are formed. You know, we are supposed to speak a certain way. We're supposed to walk a certain way. We're supposed to dress a certain way. Um, that's all false, because that does not allow you to be individually you. That allows you to be everybody else.
Mm. Okay. And then what about how you express yourself?
Well,
Because you said how we see ourselves, how we express ourselves, and there was another piece.
expressing yourself again goes hand in hand with stereotypes. You know, you have to be careful how you say something. You have to be careful who you say something to, because most people or different groups perceive a statement. Um, Either they're going to take it positively or they're going to take it negatively. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
One statement in particular, and this comes from I said this to a good acquaintance of mine, and we were talking about um, successes and financial success. And I made a statement to her. I said, you know what? I'm investing in this. And I said, and if I make some money, I'm coming back for you. Well, she took it as I'm coming for you. Like somebody would say, I'm coming for you in a negative way. I'm coming to beat you up, that kind of thing. And it shifted the whole realm of communication between us. Like, you forgot what we were talking about and you took that one statement and turned it into a negative. And I said, hold it, wait, 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 wait. What I meant by that is just like people who are entertainers and they have siblings or friends and they say, if I make it, I'm coming back for you, give you that hand up. Where
Mm-hmm.
did the negativity come into that? Why did it have to go that way? It shouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned.
Right. So going back to this, were you most concerned about? You talk about the perceptions that we have, the negative stereotypes. Talk about some of those negative stereotypes that you are most concerned about that we have internalized. What are some of those negative stereotypes that we have internalized about ourselves as black men?
I think society has imposed on us that we are uh, brutal, we are barbaric, we are less than, you know,
Mm-hmm.
perception of, and then it all there's so many different facets of it. I mean, and even in our own communities, we put a big importance on light skin, dark skin, brown skin. I never heard so many descriptions of who we are. Nothing about who we are as a people mentally, our capabilities as black men or women for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
but we fall into those stereotypes that's given to us by society, of not being adequate, sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we are told that we can't be as successful as our white counterparts, if I can say it that way. And then the way systems are set up, we are really quick to say, and in some instances it's adequate. The white man
Mm-hmm.
keeping me down. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's true in a sense that when I know that me with a college degree may have the same chances at a position as a young white man with a high school education, that's that's what it is. Um, but we often don't band together as a people to overcome that and change that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the devices that been drilled into our head uh, causes us to kind of, how can I say, fight one another. You know, we see so many times where somebody who's made some success often looks down on your brother because he doesn't have. When you forgot, not that long ago, you were in the same position. But as opposed to giving that hand up or that assistance to get to that level, you'd rather walk over him because he's just another nigga. He's just a poor broke nigga or something, like he ain't
Mm-hmm.
doing nothing. That type
Mm-hmm.
of thing.
What solutions do you see to that, and how are you working uh toward that?
First solution that I see is finding a very viable and strong communication piece to be able to reach people. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Again, communication is important. However, I do realize that we as a people or we as individuals have to be willing to hear and receive that communication. We have to also be willing and available to walk into that communication piece and not look at everything as negative criticism, because there's a difference between negative criticism and constructive criticism. But we don't have to take everything negatively all the time. We don't have to
Mm-hmm.
think that just because I speak a little bit more educated or you speak more a little bit more educated, we worked for that. And some of it came natural, but we realize our own personal strengths, and people are not always receptive to receiving that in the way it's presented to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we need to be a little bit more open minded when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to communication and receiving information and facts and you know
Mm-hmm.
learning the ways of personal development, and growth.
And so, how are you working toward those solutions?
First thing I'm doing is continue to walk in my my natural abilities. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing I'm doing is taking my first step in becoming educated, because there's nothing, hardly anything worse than miseducation, misinformation. So if I'm going to want to deliver something to you, I need to know what I'm talking about. I need to know how to deliver it to you. And I'm not saying I need to know how to walk on eggshells for you to get it. I just need to know how to get it to you. I can say lots of things, but there are lots of people that say a whole lot of everything and little of nothing. It does you no good for me to just provide you with lip service and you can't get anything out of it.
Mm-hmm. Let me go back on something. And you talked about you still on this journey of finding yourself. What, if anything, got in your way of finding yourself, that you are still on this journey at age 56?
Fear of success. You know, I have started quite a few things that I probably could have been really good at and got to a certain level and kind of backed away. Now, why I did it, I didn't know why I did it. I just know I did it. And that fear, and I don't know where it came from. I don't even know why I had it. Certainly don't have it anymore. But fear of success. And most people that have that don't realize they have it. They don't
Mm-hmm.
realize, I mean, and you can know that you're fearful of a certain thing or a certain person or something like that. But your personal fears, we don't take the time to stop and think, what is it that I'm afraid of? What is it that makes me feel like I can't do this? What is it that makes me feel like I don't want to do this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first very important key part of growth, identifying and conquering those fears of success, fears of growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What, how has these stereotypes that we talked about a few seconds ago, these negative stereotypes about we as black men, how has that impacted um, your fear of succeeding?
Uh,
Well,
because
so let me rephrase the question. How has that played a role? I'll put it in a different way. How has that played a role in your fear of succeeding, if it has at all?
I think it has, simply because you put too much emphasis on one of the first things that we might say if we fail at something, or if we're not accepted into something, or
Mm-hmm.
even if we receive a little bit of constructive criticism, or even if it's negative criticism, one of the first things we as black men might say, and black women too, for that matter, is why? Because I'm black.
Hmm.
Yes, there are a lot of things that happen in our lives because we are Black. Some good, some bad, some indifferent, but that we are trained to go to that very first because I'm Black. You know,
Hmm.
somebody says something to you, why? Because I'm Black. And that's not to diminish, you know, total feelings and thoughts about that statement. I don't mean it that
Hmm.
way at all, but everything doesn't have to be because I'm Black.
Hmm. Talk a little bit more about that. I want you to, if you could, go deeper into it in our last few minutes here. When you say that we as black people, black men, and you said women as well, um, our tendency is to
Well,
say, why? Because I'm black. Why what? Because I'm black.
well, why aren't you attracted to me? Why am I not included in this? Why didn't I get the position? You know,
Okay.
some of that certainly does have its merit, you know. So again, I'm not trying to diminish that completely, but I would like people to know that everything is not because you are Black.
Okay. So
Every,
what should people's response then? What should our response as black people be instead of,
well,
is it
instead of
because I'm
saying
black?
to somebody, uh, if you're passed up for a position, just throwing something generally out, um, the question doesn't have to be, why is it because I'm Black? Or why can't it just be, well, why? You know, um, it might be that you really aren't as qualified as the next person, whether it be a white person, a Mexican person. You know, we have so many different people in the United States, you know, that people have, you know, migrated from all over the place.
Hmm.
Somebody, another minority might have got it. Um, but we may not see that, okay, a Latino got it, a Cuban got it, whatever, whoever got it. We just see, a lot of us just see, I'm Black, and if they're not Black, they're white,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. And that may not be the best way to just describe that. But again, I
Hmm.
kind of want to go to, I don't want to be the one saying I didn't get because I'm Black. I can't.
What would you want to be the one saying then?
Well, I would
In
want to
in
be
a system
the
of in a
form
system of racism that we live in a system of oppression, continued discrimination, continued disparities,
one. Hmm.
those things that are real in our society, how should then we respond when it is so pervasive and it's baked in a cake that black people are are looked over for positions because they're black? We are turned down because we're black. So much of it happens. How should we respond then?
I think that there are a lot of instances where we could respond where instead of saying, is it because I'm Black? Is it my qualifications? Something to that effect. And I'm really kind of lost here. I have an idea where I want to go with it, but I'm kind of lost for
It's
words.
okay.
But and well, there's a place and time for every question,
Hmm. Hmm.
statement, and
Hmm.
it could honestly be that you're underqualified, overqualified, or whatever it is. If somebody just gives you a blanket, we decided to go with another candidate or pursue other interests. It may not necessarily be. Now, it could be. It could be. We know that people, you know, are good at lying and
Hmm.
falsehoods or whatnot. I think I think I would like to find a way of holding somebody accountable for how they tell me no.
Mm. 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 Wow. How that's interesting. So how is that beneficial? In what way will that benefit us to not just respond with if we're turned down for a position or if we overlooked for a promotion or whatever, right?
Hmm.
that how is it beneficial for us spiritually and emotionally to not respond with why is it because I'm black? In what ways does that help us if we respond that way as opposed to why is it because I'm black?
Um, Let me say this. Is it because I'm black may not necessarily be a wrong question to ask. It is how we ask it.
Hmm.
Uh, because society
Hmm.
says that we are definitely the violent ones. We are. So if you snap back, why? Because I'm black, that kind of thing, then you're automatically playing into what they say you are anyway. But
Hmm.
if you find an intelligent way to hold them accountable for the answer that they give you, the turn down that they give you, then that eliminates the offensiveness of it. Not saying that 100% of the time it's necessary, um, because certainly there are some times that you might have to go there with it, um, but it doesn't have to be 100% of the time.
Okay. Have you had instances where you were turned down for a position or a job because you
Quite
were
a few,
black?
quite a few.
And and how did you feel?
Um, I certainly felt it was because I was black, for one thing. You know that I flew, I was a flight attendant, and years ago, I wanted to go into the training center. And I had tried several times, and there were times when I got answers like, oh, you didn't have enough A line experience, or um, there were times that they went with somebody else. And then when I saw that there was a white counterpart that got it that had no A line experience, I had the experience. Some that were doing things that I felt like was inappropriate for the workplace in a business setting. A man should be a man and present himself as one, especially in a professional setting. Um, and to see somebody come dressed otherwise to me was personally offensive. It's like, okay, this is who you chose over me, and I had lots of accolades. My performance reviews were good, but somehow or another, I could never get that position. Um, I remember trying for what we called a in-flight service specialist, which is where we were mentoring new flight attendants coming in and whatnot. And we had to take a test. I took that test and I aced it on the first try. And I interviewed and I was complimented on my interviewing skills and whatnot. And I was very high on a priority on the list of candidates. And then 6 months later, without any type of communication, even after having sent emails or wondering, hey, what's going on with the position, I get this letter one day saying, oh, it's not that you weren't qualified. We had a lot of applicants. So we encourage you to continue working hard and try again in the future. Well, then I went to what we had was recurrent training. And some of those applicants that they chose, first of all, hadn't even been flight attendants for a year, as opposed to my, at that time, almost 20 years of experience. I mean, I had flown internationally, done the transcons, every domestic kind of flight you could do. I passed your test, you know. You complimented my interviewing skills, you liked me, but you chose this one without any explanation. And that is where I wanted to be able to hold somebody accountable and tell me why. That is where I felt like, well, maybe it was because I was black, but I still had to work there. So if I was going to say, is it because I'm black? I had to say it in a different, I couldn't come
Hmm.
and dig a deeper hole for myself and come with, oh, you didn't pick me because I'm black, that kind of thing. Because what was that going to get me other
Hmm.
than confirmation of the stereotype that we all carry?
Hmm. How did you feel? How did that impact you how did that impact your life when you realized that you were looked over because you were black?
It, in a way, it was really kind of devastating. Um, and then I found that some of the other blacks that I looked up to that had made it to certain positions like that, base supervision or the training center, they passively my statement was, I've tried this, but they won't let me do it. Oh, yes, they will. Um, but then there was no help. There was no offer of this is what you do, this is how you do it. I was left to then come to my own devices and figure out on my own how to get there. And this is what I mean by
So you
communication.
didn't get any help from the people who came before you, who already got no. What I mean, people, black men and women who were in positions, they didn't support you.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
Mm,
They didn't give me any type of positive feedback on what steps I could take to get there. What different route could I have tried to get there? Even as far as, and sometimes we know about, getting hired in positions is not always what you know, it could be who you know. There was
hmm
no, hey, this is who you need to talk to kind of thing.
hmm
And there
hmm
was no go before me to say, hey, we think Eric Tennial would have been perfect here, or we should consider him even for this, which would have allowed me to at least get in the department and move up. Now, uh, that is where I think communication is key. That is where I want to be able to, that's why I'm pursuing education. Because if I see that person that wants to grow, if I'm paired with somebody who desires something more, if they're serious about it and I have something to contribute to that, they're going to take that and do what they're supposed to do with it. I'm not saying it's a handout. I'm saying it's a handout. It is a natural ability of mine to lift somebody else to a higher level.
Wow. Wow. Unfortunately, man, we only have like 3 more minutes left, and there's so much more I want to ask, bruh. Let me ask this last two questions. What is to you, the most challenging part about being a black man in America? And then lastly, what is the most rewarding?
The most challenging part about being a black man is being the misunderstood black man, first as an individual, then as a group. The most rewarding part about it to me is that we are still here. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, the majority of us are better than, well, we are all better than what you say and what you do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but those devices that are formed against us, they're not prevailing.
Mm.
We see the hard times, we live the hard times, we fight for equality, we fight for respect. And so many times we don't get any of that, but we are still here. That makes us strong as a people, that makes us an identifiable race of people.
Wow, that's beautiful. There's an African proverb that says, "They thought they buried us. They didn't realize we were seeds."
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
They
I
thought they
like
buried us, but they didn't realize we were seeds. Right?
that.
And I think that's what you were saying in that summation. I appreciate that. Any last words you want to say before we conclude to the audience that listen to you now?
I am just hoping that I've said something that that resonates with the audience. I am still working on me. I'm a work in progress, and the next time somebody hears me or sees me on this platform, I plan to have so much more to give that time and every other time, whether it be your platform or any other platform. I plan to be that one that somebody wants to hear, that one that somebody can take something from. I want people to be able to hear me and you and everybody else because we all have something to say.
We do. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you, little brother, for coming to share and be on my platform. You've grown into a fine young man. I'm so proud of you and what you've done and what you've accomplished, and the journey that you're on now. Continue to do what you're doing, brother. And I got your back. You need anything, you can reach out. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. Appreciate it. And would you, the last words you said, is that an indication that you're willing to come back on my show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I
Anytime.
love to have you back. All right. All right. Grace and peace, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Yana. You are not alone. And until next time, remember, we're never meant to do life alone. So please don't try it. Grace and peace. Yana is here for you. This is your space to connect, grow, and be heard because none of us are meant to do life alone.